Dang, man. The world is a chaotic place, and navigating it as a modern man can be tough. But don't worry. The Hart brothers are here to tackle masculinity one topic at a time to help out men just like you. So here we go, bros. This is Dang Man.
All right, hey, bros. So I thought I knew the Manosphere before researching this episode, but wow, was I wrong. And on top of that, there is so much great content already out there that analyzes it from various perspectives. The road we've been following to get us to this point is still a through line for disorder of the highest magnitude. The ideas spread by the diabolical dickheads are like an infection, attempting to use men and in some cases even women to their detriment. These Jim Joneses of toxic testosterone have weaponized rage posting based on conspiracies that believe that modern men are somehow disadvantaged by a mass feminist conspiracy. Oh man, my blood pressure is already on the rise, but we're going to knock this one out. We can't stop yet. We got one last leg on the road to the Manosphere. This is Dang Man.
I'm Mike.
I'm James.
I'm Tim. Okay, guys. So we were just chatting about we got like our first decent snow, but for the most part, we were prepared, I would say, right?
Yeah, it wasn't that much snow that we needed to prepare very much.
Yeah, right. I guess so.
Right.
The last of the leaves I got up yesterday, so that I got that taken care of. James,
Nice.
you gotta dig out probably still.
Yeah,
Like you got your window fixed.
Yeah, I got my storm window on the house just before the snow.
Excellent. I took a couple Fridays off because I got vacation I got to burn up. So in
Same,
my
I've been
Fridays,
doing that too.
nice. I got so much vacation after 18 years that I get to take random Fridays. So, but one of the things I do on my Fridays, well, first I got a haircut on one of those Fridays, but I went to Half Price Books, which is always a fun activity to go find some books and not pay full price for them. So I always go to the, as I've talked about many times, to the gender studies section and stand there and have to read every single spine to decide if it's a good men's gender studies book. And I found a couple decent ones this time around, and one that I can't wait to share with you right now. So
nice.
This one is a book called Guy Rules: The Unspoken and Previously Unrecorded Rules That Govern Men's Social Behavior. Now, this is written by a couple authors, Garland H. Green Jr., W. P. Myers, and Dan W. Hartshorn. He's trying to infringe on our last name there.
Seriously.
But this book was published in 1999. So you guys remember what it was like to talk about masculinity in 1999?
Yeah,
Like the only thing that comes to mind for me is like the remember the Man Show with Jimmy Kimmel and Adam
The
Carolla.
Oh,
Zaki.
geez, wow.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's the only thing that comes to mind for me when talking about masculinity. It's like all tongue in cheek stuff back then.
Yeah. Not toxic at all. Right.
Yeah, no way. So these gentlemen have established a website. Okay, so we've got a couple things queued up here. So welcome to the Guy Rules website. Okay, so does this look like 1990 to you, Mike?
Yeah, this is guyrules.com. It doesn't have SSL certificate set up, so this is an insecure website. It looks like it's a GeoCities website. Definitely from 1999.
Hey, but the page was
Nice.
rendered in 0.0080 seconds, Mike.
Hell of a webmaster. Hell of a
Yes,
webmaster.
Yes. So this site, in the book, they actually go through like the impetus behind the website, but it is literally just a list of rules. So you can go like by category. Look at these categories: auto, automotive, and motorhead. Bestie or buddies, the boys. Camping, the great outdoors. Ego, the fabric of male pride.
Whoa.
Partying, what guys do best.
Okay.
Sports, an active pastime or diversion. tools, the shop, construction yard, or backyard, uncategorized, unfiled, or uncharted waters, and then wife, woman, girlfriend, whatever.
What the heck?
So this is the website version, but I got the book version. I think I paid like $2 for this book, but it's like a trade paperback. It's actually pretty sizable. It's like 200 and so pages. That just literally talks about these rules. But one of the things you got to do in order to know where you stand as a guy in 1999 was take the guy rules entrance exam. So that's what we're going to do today, guys. Are you ready? It's a 10 question quiz, and I have the answers. So I don't know what you win if you get them all correct. But if you don't get them correct, then you have to turn in your man card.
You're no longer a man. Yeah.
That's right. You're a sub guy.
I'm getting nervous.
All right, so yeah, you ready for this one? So again, 10 questions. I'll tell you right now, the first time I even read some of these questions, I had to read it like 3 or 4 times to understand what the heck they're even talking about. Now, 1999 was, like 26 years ago, right? So it's not that long ago, but it's long enough that maybe I've become disconnected from the pre-Y2K youth that I had once a long time ago. So, all right, let's jump into this. So we got first question. Okay, so they're all multiple choice. So I'll read the question, and I'll go A, B, C, and D for the answers. And then you guys pick which one you'd go with, okay? So to question number 1, when going for a beer, what is the big let me into the club early kind of move, okay? Is it A, handing the other guy the first beer, B, getting someone a beer without asking them if they wanted one, C, asking them first if they want a beer, or D, giving them the better beer? Okay, which one do you think it is, guys?
What?
What?
Wait,
This
read the question
honestly has
again?
Never happened to me before.
You know, when you're going to grab a beer, or when you're going for a beer, what is the big let me into the club early kind of move?
Let me into the club early kind of move? What?
Yeah, you know, which is what thing the guys did back in 99, Mike.
They went to the club.
They got to the club early if they did this rule right? I think it's A. A was just
handing the other guy the first beer.
Yep.
Okay?
I think I'm going with that because that seems congenial. Like, hey, I got a beer, bro. Let's start the party. I give you my beer.
I think it's either A or it's whichever one was you get the guy a beer without him asking.
See, I can see
okay,
that.
Okay, so the answer is ding, ding, ding. James, you get the point. It is B, getting someone a beer without asking them if they wanted one. Okay.
Dang.
So you preempted them. You foresaw their need for a beer.
Awesome.
Okay, let's keep this train going. Yeah, not at all. When you're at your buddy's house and you feel the urge to adjust his stereo, what do? A, make sure that you have the right remote. B, play it safe. Don't use a remote. C, ask his wife how to use his stereo. D, don't even think of it. That's his territory. Or E, ask for his permission first.
No, leave it. You don't touch
you don't touch his other stereo. Like, it's not yours.
Yeah, that's not yours.
Okay. That is the correct answer. Don't even think of it. That's his territory. I love how dated that question was, too, because it was all about how to use the remote for the stereo correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, the question number 3. Guys must be loyal to their products. Okay, once a guy's been using a brand of something for a while, he will, A, he'll stick to it and swear by it. B, he will know every place to buy it. C, he'll act like a salesman hawking it to all his buddies. Or D, tell his wife to only buy that brand.
What? I don't know. Some of these overlap. Like,
sure. Yeah.
I feel like A and C. I can't remember which one was which now.
I
feel
agree
like
with you there, Mike.
I'm
It's
gonna
like
go
the same dang thing.
Yeah. I'm just going to say A. He's going to stick to it.
That was my take, too.
It is A. It is A. He'll stick to it and swear by it, but that does not mean he's going to sell it to his buddies. Yeah.
He's definitely going
to. Okay. When you're trying to keep up with your buddy, you should not be too hard on yourself because A, you're not in as bad shape as you think. B, over time, it doesn't matter. C, your buddy is doing all that to try and impress you anyways. Or D, your buddy is your buddy and he doesn't care. I'm assuming by keeping up means you're like jogging.
Yeah, sounds like there's
like
a
that.
physical aspect to this
Or
question.
there's like lifting weights.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's D. Your buddy
Yeah.
doesn't care about you. It's fine. Just,
Wait,
just
what
do
was
your
the
thing.
first two options again?
You're not in as bad shape as you think. Or B, over time, it doesn't matter.
Man, I'm gonna say that you're gonna rationalize this in your head as I'm not in that bad a shape. He's just trying to impress everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
The real answer is C.
Oh.
Your buddy is doing all that to try to impress you anyway. What a jerk. Okay.
Yeah. So I think I was half right, half a point.
Okay, sure. Yeah. All right. This harkens back to a previous topic we've talked about. Number 5, when smoking a cigar for the first time, you, A, follow the lead of the other guys. Also, guys there is capitalized for some reason in the answer. But B, act perfectly comfortable, like you've done this a million times. C, annoy as many people as possible. Or D, turn it around backward in your mouth and blow smoke at your buddies. Oh, guys.
Yes. A little party trick. It's B. B is the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. B is the answer. Yes, B is the answer. You've done this a million times.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 6, should you eat the last piece of pizza with a group of guys? A, why not? B, never. Respect for the kill is vital. I don't even know what that means. C,
Pizza.
only if you had less than everyone else. Or D, yes, then throw the box across the room.
That's it. I mean, I've never heard a clearer option.
It is B, never. You should never eat the last piece of pizza. So that's what they say. Yes, never. Respect for the kill is vital. So, okay, number 7, there is only a maximum of 2 accidental leg incursions before, okay, I don't know exactly what that means, but we're going to keep rolling with it. You start telling the guy off. B, you tell your buddy about the guy next to you. C, you think of kicking the guy's butt. Or D, one of the guys starts to get nervous. I think accidental leg incursion just means you're like tap your legs together or something
Yeah, I
like
think
that.
so. I think it's D.
Like you're at the theater together or something. Sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Taking in a good musical.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go.
Like you said, D.
I say D.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna go D also.
Yeah. Yeah, we aren't at all uncomfortable with this, but yes, it is D. One of the guys starts to get nervous. Number 8, the guy riding shotgun is responsible for A, making sure the music is loud. B, making sure no good-looking babe goes unnoticed. Yes, sir.
Sounds like that's the answer right there.
C, food inventory and distribution.
Huh?
Or D, all the direction navigation.
Yeah, you're navigator if you're shotgun.
You're the navigator.
Yeah.
Okay, the correct answer is C, food inventory and
Oh,
distribution. Okay.
What?
That's
I
like a
raise these
secondary responsibility.
That's backseat.
Yeah,
all
they're
the
from
way.
Arizona. So they're from Arizona. I don't know what they do over there. Okay, got a couple left here. You must weave your web of distortion to prove that no other man could have. Okay, that was a mouthful. A, ever beaten you if you were sober. Ever been so mad as you were then? Done any better in the same situation? Or D, beaten the other guy.
What?
I think this means that you lost something, like a game of some kind. So is it A, that you were probably drunk anyways, you were just really mad, you couldn't have done, or you could have done better in the same situation, or just beaten the other guy. I'm confused with this one.
This is so confusing. I think D still.
I'm gonna go C.
It is C.
Dang it.
Yeah, done any better in the same situation. Okay, last question here. Number 10. Every guy must avoid the self-imposed pressure of A, new gear expectations.
Yeah.
Okay, gear as in like everyday carry or
Yeah.
like shirt that you're wearing. B, following the hard to use directions. C, performing on his anniversary. D, the old girlfriend meeting the new girlfriend. Or E, answering quizzes correctly.
I feel like this is all just, it makes no sense to me anymore. My brain doesn't even know what these questions are.
Yeah, well, I'll give you that. So the answer is A, self-imposed pressure of new gear expectations.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think we failed on this quiz, guys.
I think James came closest.
I feel like maybe society has evolved a bit since then. But this book, maybe I'll come back to it at some point. They also have things like a glossary of terms, including terms like breach of guidedom or cologne. Choir boy. Jeez. I'm gonna get myself in trouble if I keep reading this book. So again, so Guy Rules, you can check out the site. It's still out there. It is unsecured though, right, Mike? So you enter at your own at your own peril. Okay. Yep. So, but we're gonna switch gears, and since today's episode is primarily internet bullshit in the shape of the Manosphere, I figured I would take a look at, there were some interesting and positive things that I have stumbled upon as I kind of continue to like build our brand here as a podcast, specifically through LinkedIn, which I've found is less chaotic than other social media platforms. So these are either organizations or individuals that have like connected with me to a certain extent over the last couple of weeks. So I figured I would share their information here because at the end of today's episode, you'll hear me talk about how like we just need to continue to kind of boost this content specifically. So anything I can do to help other progressive or heroic men and organizations that represent them, I figured I would do that. So you guys ready for this? We're going to take a look at some of these wonderful individuals. Okay. So the first one so the way this kind of evolved was I started kind of replying to a number of different organizations' posts if I found something about masculinity, and then people would start to follow me back, stuff like that. So, the normal internet stuff or the normal social media stuff. So one of the first organizations was an organization called Men Impact Change 2.0. Now this organization, their mission, they were established in 2014 as a nonprofit transforming boys and young men through cultural responsive programs, collaborative partnerships that build purpose, entrepreneurial pathways, and positive masculinity, preparing them to lead with vision, integrity, and impact. If I remember correctly, I believe they are either out of Baltimore or Washington, D.C. Kind of information here. They have this like annual gala that I think they actually just wrapped up in the last week or so here. But a lot of young men, specifically black men, are part of this organization, and they they do whatever they can through things like 6-month internships or other online or in-person programs. So I'm not going to go into all the details, but I'll read here that they have a 5-year vision is to close the skill and knowledge gap and foster the next generation of business leaders, job creators, and employers. Our 5-year vision is to build a Men Impact Change Academy with a focus on financial literacy and entrepreneurship. So they are, again, a 501c3 organization. So if you're looking to make a donation in the spirit of the holidays, I'm sure you can send some money their way. So, all right, let's keep going. So a couple other organizations. So this was another one that kind of stumbled upon a group called Equimundo. Equimundo, and they have a sub. It is Equimundo Center for Masculinities and Social Justice. So they are, let me read their thing here. So Equimundo Center for Masculinities and Social Justice works to promote gender equality and create a world free from violence by engaging men and boys in partnership with women, girls, and individuals of all gender identities. Our work emerges from more than 2 decades of local and international research, which informs our program development and advocacy. So they've got a bunch of content here about the Manosphere, their own studies. So, but they do a lot of like surveying and stuff like that. They've got a lot. They said they have the largest data set in the world on men and masculinities and gender equality. They're represented in over 40 countries. So they specialize in things like fatherhood, and they have other campaigns, specifically international, such as Men Care and the Global Boyhood Initiative. So they work on things like caring men, healthy boyhoods, and social connection. So again, cool stuff here. Oh, it looks like Melinda Gates actually contributes to this one. So if you want the positive end of the Gates divorce situation, there you go. So, and then the other organization was kind of a small, or it was like a couple smaller ones. They actually showed up as like individuals first. Okay. So the first one was a guy by the name of Blake Ward. So Blake Ward reached out to me, and he has what he calls the Dad Life Blueprint. So this is specifically kind of reframing the perspective on parenting, partnership, and lifestyle for modern dads. So he does have a podcast, the Dad Life Blueprint. They've only got a couple episodes out there though. And then there's a website, it's the Blueprint Circle, and they've got a couple kind of, it's not the greatest website as well said, but it is kind of small here. We could buy some merch from them and stuff like that. So he continues to kind of work through, like the fatherhood blueprint is what I'll say. So, and then there's a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Stockdale, who hosts his own podcast. You can see his t-shirt here. It says, "On Wednesdays, we smash the patriarchy." Nice. So he doesn't have his own website, but he shows up on a bunch of other websites. So this one is the Co-Women website, but he does speeches, and he does have his own podcast as well. I think, again, it probably comes out every Wednesday. So, but, and then we've got a couple other kind of smaller ones. So I'll give a shout out to a guy by the name of Aaron Kolosik. Aaron Kolosik is a guy out there who has a podcast called the Unstuck Podcast. It focuses specifically on things like manufacturing and leadership there, but I thought it had some pretty good episodes specifically on well-being and like wellness for men in general. So some really cool stuff there. Fairly short episodes from the Unstuck Podcast. They're only about 15-20 minutes a pop. So if you're looking to try something new, I would recommend his. And then very interesting, the last one I'll talk about, a gentleman named Brian Anderson. So Brian Anderson, again, kind of liked one of my posts. He actually put something out there where he was drinking some Lagavulin with one of his buddies in the post. And my response to that was this is absolutely heroic. And I'm a big fan of Lagavulin. Yeah. But then he actually reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I see you've got a podcast. Do you want to connect really quick? You're just down the road from me." And he's from Evanston. Nice. So in towards the north side of Chicago. So I actually did reach out to him. We chatted for like 30 minutes one day. Cool. Online, and he's really, really cool guy. He at one point had his own podcast. Again, if you can look him up on LinkedIn, And he occasionally posts some video recordings he has with some random guys out there. But really cool guy. And he's like, hey, if you're ever in the area, in the Evanston area, on Thursdays, we get this get together of just a bunch of guys and we like walk around and we talk about stuff. So
No way.
I don't know if
That's
I'll ever
awesome.
be in the Evanston area, but I
would love to know more about that. Maybe I'll just go for one of those, and so I can learn, because that seems like a cool event. Just a bunch of dudes that get together to walk around and talk about stuff. Like,
yep.
Who doesn't need that?
Yeah, so I'll quick run through the organizations again. I guess I'll say this all kind of stemmed from me following Richard Reeves and the American Institute for Boys and Men, and they also have like a offshoot in the UK called the Center for Policy Research on Men and Boys. And by following that group and just kind of commenting on posts, things like that, all the rest of these organizations have connected with me. So again, that's the Men Impact Change, Equimundo Center for Masculinities and Social Justice. Blake Ward has the Dad Life Blueprint. Jeremy Stockdale, who has the On Wednesdays We Smash the Patriarchy. Aaron Kolosik, who does his Unstuck podcast. And then the gentleman who reached out to me and we chatted, Brian Anderson, who's from the Evanston, Illinois area. So again, the opposite of internet bullshit, because that's what we're dealing with for the remainder of the episode today. So.
Nice.
All right. Well, let's we're gonna take a hard left here, folks.
That was hard.
Yeah, you're squealing the tires. So, but I wanted to kind of keep people grounded. So we've been through a couple episodes now, but that we are on the road that has led us to the current situation, because it has been enabled by building blocks and prototypes that were kind of less pervasive or less successful, I guess is what I'll say, in our culture, yet were indeed part of kind of setting up the foundation for this problem. So we started by examining cults and conspiracy theorists to better understand how someone can be so disassociated from reality, yet their behavior won't allow them to live in reality. Remember, we're all the sheep in this world, people, right? We didn't drink that Kool-Aid yet, or Flavor Aid, right? So last episode, we started to see this conspiracy take shape with a misogynistic lens through things like Gamergate and how the anonymity of the internet perfected a decentralized cults of personality in QAnon. So this time, I want to dig into a couple of communities within the Manosphere to explore the variety of beliefs, then take time to debunk a lot of different claims. And lastly, look at the ways that the Manosphere has used rage bait to manipulate disenfranchised men and women into clicking on their videos. Now, what I've found most enraging about the Manosphere is how unbothered the people are with their actions and opinions. This has generally been supported through the embodiment of a cultural tragedy in our current president. Last episode, we asked what it takes for a person with a culturally condemned worldview to feel comfortable enough to share that publicly, and to be honest, when an office that should represent a moral compass, however naive that sounds, embraces misogyny and patriarchy as defining characteristics, it emboldens those people who share those beliefs. A federalized permission structure for douchebags. I know I try to keep political ideologies out of our topics as much as I can, but every source, literally every single source I used, has mentioned this enabler in chief as a catalyst. So how have you guys seen this come to life?
Like, I feel like I've had a lot of friends. Like, I think I would tie the president's connection to a certain person who was tragically killed earlier this year, who espoused terrible beliefs, misogynistic, racist beliefs. And then I would add, like, follow that up with the amount of friends who have reached out me, like, wanting to have a debate about, a topic that's either, just as like benign and settled as like the Tylenol topic and whether or not it's safe for human consumption by pregnant women, all the way to like the crazier misogynistic and racist stuff. Like, to me, it has played out in like friends reaching out, wanting to have, a political debate, a nice, collegial. Yes. Is that the word? Congenial. I can't find my words.
There you go.
Yes.
Congenial.
Congenial debate about these topics that are just like batshit crazy. To me, that's how I've seen it out most recently.
That's
That's
interesting though, Mike. Like that, you have people in your life that want to have a civilized discussion.
Like, I've had two different friends reach out to me personally, and I wouldn't say friends, like people that I've once been acquainted with. But just the fact that their arguments are just so dumb.
I was gonna say, I don't know if that's progress or not.
That's what I don't know that it's progress. I mean, this is how I'm tying it back to this enabler in chief and how I've seen this come to life, in my own life. Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I guess the reason I think that that's interesting though is because when I have conversations about really anything that involves politics with people I know, or men that I know, it very quickly goes from like a civilized conversation to like, I'm now being screamed at.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
You're wrong. That's ridiculous. How could you say that you don't believe in this? Like, look around. Like, I mean, like from civilized to like, from 0 to 100 in seconds, and it's, I don't think there's like no ability to talk to people anymore.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that too. When they haven't been stupid arguments, it's been that. Like, it seems like there's a point at which people reach that they like can't go past that. That's their only defense mechanism, is to just word salad ballistic bullshit at you.
Right. Yeah. There's no possible way I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think from my lens, I think I posted something about this the other day about like the idea of like if I'm a man, I have like some pursuit of my own self, like dignity, right? And I get to ultimately define what that dignity is, like a minimum. Like if I don't meet these things, this threshold, I am like subhuman, right? Mm-hmm. And I think about like I don't know, maybe the lies that were told that made people feel like progress was going to be made, and that would make men feel more fulfilled in their life. And now that is not coming true, pretty blatantly, like there's this element of like, how do you take, I guess just men in general who may not feel like they're living up to some cultural standard of living, that they're going to be pissed off no matter what, because either money or opportunity or something like that they feel like they don't have anymore. But that, like, the reality is what it is. Like, there is a loss of opportunity for them for some reason, but the reasons why they've lost that opportunity were just like misconstrued so badly. Now they're like completely lost with like what to do at this point in time, right? But I will say, so earlier this year, one of the big monumental turds in this area, Andrew Tate and his brother, were allowed back on U.S. soil after the president and his family advocated for both Tate brothers being allowed looser travel restrictions in order to leave Romania, where they were charged with rape and human trafficking. Now, Tate was a vocal advocate for the president during his campaign. It's a big surprise, folks.
Yeah, shocker.
However, the fact that gave me some hope for humanity and masculinity as a whole was that when the Tate brothers landed in Florida, perfect Florida men, by the way.
Fit right in.
Man, that's probably me being unfair to Floridians, but your reputation precedes you, Florida.
It does.
But anyways, like I was saying, when they arrived, the state's attorney of Florida immediately asked his team to, quote, conduct a preliminary inquiry into Andrew and Tristan Tate. He added, quote, based on a thorough review of the evidence, I've directed the Office of Statewide Prosecution to execute search warrants and issue subpoenas in the now active criminal investigation into the Tate brothers. Okay. And the
Okay,
last time I
right.
checked, if there's one thing Florida loves, it's prosecuting the shit out of criminals. Now, they bolted. They just left. So this
Yeah,
handling of
wow.
the Tate brothers earlier this year gives me hope that the fracturing of a pillar of the manosphere amongst other figures that have been toppling one at a time. So like I said, they're not back in Romania awaiting their trial, but it seems that humanity can ultimately prevail in the end. But let's talk a bit more broadly about the manosphere. So what makes up the manosphere? Again, think of QAnon as a model for how the manosphere has decentralized a cult following so that the leader is an idea versus a worshipped figurehead. Even though there are individual groups that make up the broader manosphere, they all speak the same language. So here is a taste of the communities, and by no means is this an all-inclusive list. There are many flavors of misogyny. So there are the men's rights advocates, the men going their own way, incels, and pickup artists that make up the larger or more what I'll call mature groups. Smaller communities include looks maxers amongst many other maxer type groups, trad cons, and the most bizarre to me, trad wives. What I find interesting about these smaller communities is they may not even identify with the manosphere, but their ideals are firmly rooted in the same thinking and supported by the same enablers. As we look at these groups, I'll be referencing the definitions and descriptions in an explainer from the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, written by Sid Venkatamara Krishna and Tim Squirrel. For the record, sweet freaking names, guys. Let's start with a deeper look at incels. You guys ready for this one?
Okay,
Oh,
if we
boy.
must.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
God.
Don't turn away. You can't turn
Don't
away
turn
now. So this was the group that actually kick-started my interest in covering the manosphere in more detail. So incels, or involuntary celibates, are a group of people who believe that there is a supply and demand issue amongst available or dateable men on the, quote, sexual market. They see women as being too superficial and overly selective when looking for relationships, resulting in 90% of women seeking out only the top 10% of men. In fact, they reduce things like appearance down to a value on this market. Now, within the incel community, you'll commonly hear terms like red-pilled, black-pilled, or blue-pilled, harkening back to the Matrix movies. Being red-pilled means you've opted to be awakened and can now see the world as it actually is, at least through the incel's lens. Blue-pilled means that you're ignorant. You've opted to stay controlled. And personally, I'm glad to be blue-pilled, folks. And then black-pilled specifically means that you've accepted that you will never be anything. You'll never find a girlfriend or be in a relationship. This is the heart of the incel community. This is also where you'll hear the terms Chads and Beckies to describe the ideal alpha men and women who are in relationships. But at the core of this, they believe that women are spoiled and that feminism was the mechanism that has motivated the hyper-selective nature they believe women see in their dating lives. This is an extremely nihilistic group and has led to instances of taking their own lives or, in multiple cases, of mass murder. And to be honest, I can't help but feel sorry for these guys. Like, they just need help. They just need some type of mentorship. As a person who did end up living with his parents well into his late 20s, I could see myself falling into this group at some point if it weren't for my friends helping me. We'll revisit that some other time. So that last statement I want to I'll ask you guys, what do you guys think about this? Like when we discussed, remember the book, The Way of Men, where it kind of started off, obviously misguided, but there was some like thread of how did we get here? Is there some truth here? Now, there probably are some aspects of the incels that men may find more compelling, even if they are misguided. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think that's the case with any of this stuff that we've talked about in the Manosphere, like these past 2 episodes and this one. Like, that's part of, I think, what is so dangerous about it is because there are little nuggets of truth in there. You know, like talking about
Right.
my eyes latched onto the 90% of women seeking out only the top 10% of men.
Yeah,
Sure,
me
yeah.
too.
I
Yeah.
think one of the outcomes of the feminist movement is that women like have a healthier value about themselves and are less
Yeah.
less willing to accept shitty men. So
Sure,
if that means that they're going to focus on the higher performing in whatever that means in their eyes or whatever the women are looking for, like if they're going to focus on the higher quality of men, then it does put pressure on those that aren't in that group, right? You feel that
Right.
pressure. That is a real thing. But the direction that they take that in becomes real dark.
I lashed on the exact same thing, and the initial thing that popped into my head was like, well, it sucks to suck. Like don't be a shitty person, and
Yeah.
maybe you'll find a partner.
Yeah.
God.
To put it bluntly.
Yeah. There's kind of 2 points go through my head with this one. The first one's like, if I reduce this down, let's say like, I think there's a lot of incels that are just like high school dudes. And like, high school girls can be pretty shitty sometimes. Right. And
Sure.
like, maybe they're a little entitled, but you're teenagers at that point, right? Like you're not going to actually come to reality for probably the next 10 years. So there's like that aspect where it's like, there's just the pettiness of like the dating scene in probably high school and even the college years that I can see men getting kind of disenfranchised as a result of that. But at the same time, like when I look at, some of the studies, even when we did the Of Boys and Men, that book, like dudes, like get out of the basement. Like, I know there's like a gap in the quote unquote like third spaces in the world.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd talk about third spaces too. Yes.
But maybe we'll do
later on
about this later. Yeah, yeah. But like if you're looking for a girl, they're not going to come find you in the basement, right? Like, and that's like it takes effort to do that. They're not just going to like fall from the frickin' sky. So
actually, Tim, go ahead, finish your thought.
It's just like. You have to put some semblance of effort into it. Like I think about again my time. I'll never forget when I shared that I was dating Shannon, right? And I think Mike, when you came, you were in New York at the time. Yeah, you came home and you were like, "Oh my god, like, where is this? Where is this person at?" To us.
Yeah.
Well, because we had all been told this story that Tim's dating this girl, and it was like this magical thing when I came home.
Yeah, and for the folks who may not be familiar with this, like how old was I when I started? So it was, I was probably 23 probably when we started dating.
Man, that seems young in retrospect.
I know. But that, for the record, like she was my first girlfriend too, like first real girlfriend, right? So, So I'm going to give you some hope, man. If you're out there and you're like, I'm 18, I've never had a girlfriend. Okay. You're going to be fine.
You're going to be all right.
Yeah. Relax.
Just hang out with your bros outside of work or outside of school and something will come your way. Yeah. So, but anyways,
actually,
like,
Tim, that's what I wanted to comment on because I had never thought of it through that perspective. And I think it's really interesting to point out that like, there might just be this stage where you're a young, awkward man, and it's just weird to learn how girls work and learn to develop a relationship with girls. But how, if you don't get out there and make yourself go through that awkwardness, how it could over years turn into this incel type.
I could see that
perspective on life.
I'm not sure if they've done like studies to see like people who identify with this community, like what age groups they fit into, but. Yeah, that'd be interesting to hear. Okay, well, let's keep going. So incels are kind of the more extreme version of the group called men going their own way. So this group refers to just reject a society they see as gynocentric, which means specifically tailored for or that it revolves around women. However, instead of seeing women as something that they want but can't attain like the incels do, men going their own way just reject relationships with women. They see women as manipulative. They just don't need them. That they've created a society that can use men or punish men for potential sins of the past. They're akin to the longest organized version of these groups, the men's rights activists. These guys have been around forever, too, like since the 60s.
Wow.
So, yeah, this group was basically the counter to the like feminist movements.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense.
Civil rights
That's when the feminist movement began.
Oh,
then
sure.
you would have a counter movement too.
So these are the guys who, in the wake of like the Me Too movement, would say things like, well, where's the He Too movement?
Yeah.
Or when
Yeah.
a woman is sexually assaulted, they'll be the first one to like victim blame and mention she was wearing something that was too provocative.
Yikes.
So you know the guys,
dumb.
just utter
Yeah.
lack of perspective for what they're saying.
Do they have a permanent slap mark on their cheek? Like,
They should.
Yeah. Now, this group is troubling for me specifically because they can look like tangible help for men who may be in a tough spot, right?
Mhm.
They're literally called men's rights advocates. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
realize what that meant until I started to research them. So the problem is that they will frame any hardship on men as the result of feminism. It couldn't possibly be like economics or lack of education or mental health or any other highly reasonable factor when a man is
Right.
struggling.
God.
They back this up by citing things like rates of suicide, child custody, or even that circumcisions are a form of mutilation. Now, when I talk about how difficult it is to be a progressive man who wants to celebrate his masculinity, these are the guys that have specifically ruined it for
Sure.
us. So do you have guys, or do you have like examples of this type of behavior in your guys' lives? Like, you know, people, maybe they don't specifically identify with men's rights advocates, but I'm sure you've heard things expressed this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like I don't see it as much in people that are like in my generation, like my age group. But I think I see it in like older men a little bit more, that I interact with. And it's more of like she shouldn't have been wearing that. That wouldn't have happened, like that's just terrible.
do you think that
Yeah.
comes
Right.
from like because they're older, they've like had more life experience in that world where men like had a higher position, like where feminism was still a smaller movement, and now they feel that loss? Because I kind of feel like younger people, we've kind of grown up with more feminist things in the mainstream, like
Right.
Yeah.
women are definitely not, we don't live in a gynocentric society. That's certainly not where we live. But
Yeah.
I wonder
think
if that
about-
might be part of it.
Yeah, this was going through my head yesterday while I was raking leaves.
Nice.
I was thinking to myself, like, the excuse that people use to justify a behavior like this by saying, oh, he just doesn't know any better, right?
Yeah.
And like
yeah.
the idea of like an older man, just being like, oh, he just doesn't know any better. It's like, no, that doesn't excuse
Right.
this situation, right? So I do think there may be an age element to this, like what you're saying, James, where
Yeah.
people who grew up in a world that was kind of more patriarchal in nature
Yeah.
are, again, just like behaving the way that they always grew up behaving. So
I always have weird thoughts because that's just who I am. But like, I mean, if these guys don't want anything to do with women, let's just round them up and put them somewhere, and this will work itself out, right? I mean, they're not going to repopulate. So
it's true.
yeah,
No genes to pass on.
right.
So the example that comes to mind for me is, like, again, at where I work, we do a lot of like diversity, belonging stuff at work, and we try to keep some, monthly calendar of events that has something to do with some, culture or ethnicity or religious, or something celebrates some diverse background, right? And I remember when we started kind of shopping this thing around a bit more, intentionally, I guess is what I'll say, we definitely got a lot of people, and I'm sure you've kind of encountered this as well, who are like, yeah, but what about me? Like, what about who's going to celebrate
for
me,
sure.
right?
Uh-huh.
So this can easily go into the world of, it isn't that we don't want to celebrate somebody's, culture, like, for us, like us, like, are we going to celebrate like German heritage, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole friggin' Oktoberfest season is German heritage, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
so there's stuff out there, but this is like I said, with like the people in the wake of the Me Too movements asking where's the He Too movement, like that type of stuff absolutely drives me crazy.
Yeah. Again, it's like there's a kernel of truth, right, in this,
Mhm.
that like, sure, it does. You do want to feel included if you're including all of these other groups specifically.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do with that? You're going to go to the He Too movement. You're going to call it a gynocentric world. Maybe we need some counseling.
Yeah. Yep. Now, a couple more that I wanted to take a look at. So first is the group known as the Trad Wives. You guys ever heard of Trad Wives before?
I can't wait to talk about this because I think it's hilarious because specifically none of our three wives would ever put up with this.
Oh my gosh, no. No.
Yeah.
This seems like there's going to be a Netflix documentary about this at some point.
Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, but for Trad Wives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this group obviously made up of women who idealize the traditional gender roles from before the civil rights era. So they anchor to the ideals of their role as a homemaker and other domestic work, along with the traditional family where the husband is in charge of the household. This group has a massive online presence and can come off as a conservative influencer just trying to make content that highlights their lifestyle. Now, in an article from The New Yorker titled The Rise and Fall of the Trad Wife by Sophie Elhurst, she describes the content from an OG trad wife, Elena Kate Pettit, like this. Pettit, who is 38, is a self-proclaimed trad wife, one of the earliest and best known in a burgeoning movement of women who spend their days taking care of their homes and families and documenting their activities on social media. Her fame was assured in 2020 when, on a BBC News video, she discussed her ambition to serve her husband, but her desire long predated that moment. After all, the contours of a traditional marriage in which the man goes out to work while the woman stays home to cook, care, and clean were shaped many decades ago. Pettit, like a lot of the trad wives who fill various social media platforms with photographs of outdoor clotheslines, has an intense nostalgia for the post-war period. If you put me in a time machine back to the 50s, I'd have it made, she told me. Everyone would be asking me about when I'm going back to work. Her point ran a little deeper. That era, she believed, was the last time the housewife was celebrated. She appeared in ads. Her domestic rituals inspired magazines. Whether she was happy was not for Pettit to say, but at least she was seen. Now, where the problem comes from this community is that they aren't open to diverse perspectives. Just like how many men have been grappling with the slow fall of the patriarchy and how it is creating a new ideal of what a man in society should be. There are women in this community that either see feminism as the reason the men in their lives are failing, and they want to support them by devolving to a time where the man could live up to the patriarchal ideal, or they themselves are fearful of the autonomy that great feminists have fought for and would prefer to reject it instead. I do believe that women in this group truly believe that this is somehow help, but we can't undo the work that has been done to go back to this antiquated lifestyle. The flower of the feminist movement bloomed, and you can't put it back into a tightly controlled bud ever again.
Yeah. Man. Yeah,
Jeez.
I would highlight that obviously we can't completely understand because we're men.
Right.
Tim, I'm glad that you brought up like a problem of this community is that they aren't open to diverse perspectives, because I think, if this is a type of lifestyle that makes you feel fulfilled and happy, then you should have the freedom to live that lifestyle. I think it's the suggestion that that's the only way is where it becomes problematic. And actually this made me think of another through line, I think, with all of this that comes out of a book that I'm reading on mass movements called The True Believer by Eric Hoffer, thoughts on the nature of mass movements. And like one of the thought lines that he brings out in that is that, as free societies evolve, and I think you could equate this, evolution of free societies with like the feminist movement and the rise of equality and diversity, as that sort of freedom and competition in a free market or a free society increases, like freedom actually becomes kind of scary. These men are afraid, right? They're afraid that there's no woman out there that is going to find them attractive or like a good partner. I think maybe for some of these women, it's scary to have to feel like you need to live in this feminist world. And maybe you grew up in a household where like this type of women's roles like were portrayed positively, and so that's like how you feel like you
that was the norm.
are most fulfilled. Yeah. But to me, that's like that's what I see here, is how a truly free society becomes kind of scary to a certain chunk of the population. There's too much competition, there's too much choice. And so part of, to tie it back into like the mass movements piece, like then you start to look for these sort of things that make you feel more comfortable and that you have a place. And
it's like a comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's an interesting take for sure. I mean, I have never thought of it that way, Mike. But that's definitely an interesting take. I would challenge these women a little bit. Not that I have any place to do that, but like, are they really happy? Like, are you really happy doing this?
Yeah.
Or is it
that's the way the article wraps up, right?
Yeah. It's just like, because like, or are you just with a very insecure man that cannot handle the fact that you can do more than cook and clean? Right. Like, I mean, that's my take. I mean, I don't know, I tend to be a little bit more blunt. So I guess I would question the fact that like, I don't think she's happy. I'm going to call her out. Yeah.
I think you're both probably correct to a certain extent. But I think that the tricky part here, and I think you talked about it, Mike, is like, I'm choosing the lifestyle because it's just what I'm into. Right? Like there's plenty of guys out there. Like I was just watching, scrolling through Instagram today, and there's like a guy who just specializes in like 1940s dress, right? And his house is kind of like that way, right? It's like, cool, man. That's whatever makes you happy, right? Yeah. But I think to your point, James, is she actually happy? Like, is this person actually happy like this? Because if you're not, like, then there's something else deeper going on here. Yeah. So, but extremely like if there's one group that is like hyper present online, like this one is one of the hyper present ones.
I suppose because it's like really aesthetic looking to people. Is that why? Because like they dress up and they look different and and
there's a nostalgia to it.
Yeah,
right?
Nostalgia.
That's like, I think
it
always comes back to this like comfort, nostalgia. Like it's like comfort food, basically.
Right.
Nostalgia is dangerous, man.
Like a Better Housekeeping magazine.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think you can leave this topic without saying it's only white women that are doing this.
Yeah, more than likely, yes.
There's no brown or black woman that looks at the 1950s and says, "Yep, I had it made."
Yeah, definitely. All right. So, well, we'll keep on going here. Another hyper online group for like the last group. So I'm going to lump together the Maxer groups, Hustle Bros, and other lifestyle influencers together. Fun Maxer group that we encountered at work once. So we make to get this. So we make a product that has high fiber in it, right? And for like 6 months ago, we got this massive order for high fiber products that we were making because there are fiber maxers out there. Yes. No joke.
That's awesome.
No joke. So volume went through the roof for these couple specific products because fiber maxing had its moment, I guess. So,
today I learned.
Supported by your local plumbers union.
Yeah. Yes. All right. But in an earlier episode, I had referenced a research paper published by the Movember Foundation looking at how young men's lives are being impacted by these masculinity influencers. This paper was titled Young Men's Health in a Digital World. You can find it for free online. I highly recommend the read. So to summarize the findings from this, its stats show that 2/3 of men look for fitness, dating, political, financial, or appearance advice from masculinity influencers online. I would assume that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, young men specifically find this type of content as entertaining, motivating, and inspiring. But that's where it kind of spirals out of control at that point. So the flip side of this in the research is that while they're not tying this specifically to the content, that men who do watch content just in general, that 27% of those young men reports that they feel worthlessness. So the most telling things, at least from my perspective, were the stats around men who spend time watching these online influencers, and that they found that they engage in more frequent risky behaviors to try to attain what the influencer is trying to inspire. Specifically about double the use of performance-enhancing or body-modifying substances, and that 47% of them would hit the gym even if they had an injury. So what they're trying to inspire in these young men is actually unattainable or unrealistic. So while I talk about the damage that the men's rights activists did to men abroad, this group specifically worries me the most in the near future. This is the most like the QAnon conspiracy come to life, with a targeted masculine twist. The worry right now is that the ideal of what is being presented by these influencers is based on a life that was almost purely a result of luck or privilege, not some secret work that they discovered. It's not like the ads for like ED pills, that there's like this one weird trick, right? No, people like the Tate brothers, Jordan Peterson, Aiden Ross, Walter Weeks, and Myron Gaines, or Hamza Ahmed, have or had millions of followers. These are the people spouting this nonsense. And they all subscribed to the same basic principles. Women are superficial, and if you're going to have a shot at ever landing a girlfriend, you must be perfect in those superficial ways. The eponymous Chad of a man from the incel community. However, like QAnon, this is based on a constant struggle to be better than the rest of mankind. This type of philosophy is defined by one-upsmanship. If the other dudes in the comments in these videos are all in competition to be the idealized man, they create an apparatus that motivates more and more extreme behavior. And while the so-called self-help influencers continue to feed the misguided men who heed their advice, there isn't an ounce of actual help motivating them. Like our earlier episode on influence, these manosphere influencers are preying on men's insecurities, creating an emotional reaction as a way to validate their self-harming behavior, all to get more views and rake in more cash. Let me put it this way. There's a reason why people like the Liver King created a supplement line. It's highly profitable and requires minimal oversight from any regulatory bodies. It's pure greed. The worst type of a man who eats his own kind, and I call that a cannibal.
Yeah,
so let's take a look at some of the major issues that the Manosphere anchors to and how wrong they are. So first is the general idea that they are fixated on, that women and the feminists are the cause, the root of all men's personal and social problems, the so-called war on men. This is a universal belief, but it falls apart pretty quickly once you bring any economic, social, or political perspective into the debate. So across things like wages, education, social and personal value, what argument would we have that men aren't being stripped of opportunities like they used to, or at least that women aren't at fault? Like, what would that argument be?
Man, you could go a couple ways, I think. Like, well, and to be clear, like your question is, what argument would we have that men aren't being stripped of opportunities,
Yes,
or that at least women aren't the fault? Like, I'm sure, again, to go back to this like grain of or kernel of truth, you know, in all of this stuff, like, sure, there are times and ways in which men's opportunities may be limited compared to the past, because we are letting everybody access to the jobs that they exclusively had access to previously. But the first thing in your list was wages. Let's just look at wages. Like, there's still a gender gap in wage equality. Men still make more than women on the whole, and there may be sectors where this has changed, and that's not true anymore. But like on the whole, men are still getting paid more than women. Like, you might feel some increased competition, but there are indicators like wages, which point to the fact that that's not actually true, that you're totally, you don't have any opportunities for you anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a ridiculous argument. I mean, I think it's just like we said this earlier, like just, I mean, just come on. Like it's a ridiculous argument in the fact that now there's more competition, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think I like a good competition, and if it's going to make me better because I have to beat someone else out
Sure.
to get a position, then that's what I'm going to do, right? Like just this is just a time to where like we should see this as an opportunity as a country of like, wow, look at all these qualified candidates. How can I set myself apart? Man, woman, whoever you are. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Enough's enough.
Yeah.
Sorry, this makes me mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at
Yeah.
the unemployment. Like, there's not zero unemployment. There
Right.
are jobs available.
There's plenty of jobs. They
There's
just don't want to do
lots of
them.
ways.
Right.
Yeah. Education, like, I don't know the education numbers, but
The
women are
heel
getting
jobs,
more.
right?
Yeah, women
Yep.
are getting more education now than they did in the
Mhm.
1950s,
Sure,
and of
yeah.
course
Yep.
that gives them a leg up, and so men like might need to step it up on the education front too.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not there's not some secret cabal of women that are at fault for all of this.
I do think the way I've framed this up, and I'm not sure if I've framed this up this way on the show yet, but maybe I have, but I like to look at this as like, let's talk about the women's liberation movements or the feminist movements back in the civil rights era in relation to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, so like women back then, you couldn't, like the quote unquote glass ceiling existed after like the third step
Sure.
of this thing, right? I couldn't have reached some self-actualization, or I couldn't reach some like esteem needs because I'm just worried about the other needs in my life. And
Right.
the feminist movement like broke that glass ceiling and basically was like, no, I get to be whatever the heck I want. Right.
Yeah.
So men back then in like the old patriarchal society could go wherever the heck they wanted within that hierarchy of needs. Right. So they could be worry about esteem needs or self-actualization. But when that liberation movement happened and things like laws were put into place that, there's still progress needed to be made against actual attainment of the gender equality in this situation. But what has happened is that how I describe it is the thing that men actualized towards for the thousands of years is now being rewritten, right? And the idea of like that, opportunities are being taken away from us is like so asinine to me that nothing's being taken away. If anything, you're stuck in this old antiquated worldview and you're not allowing yourself to behave differently. So that's like, I don't know. I like to look at it that way where like, while women have now been allowed, because again, there were literally like laws that prevented them from reaching higher levels of need. But now they can, and that doesn't take anything away from you.
Right.
If anything, men and the norms that we've applied to ourselves is what's taking things away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. You're
It
limiting
is.
yourself by forcing, the propagation of this old hierarchy,
Yeah. The old gender norms are doing as much, if not more harm to men, in my opinion, at this point in time than they are to women.
That's a really great way to put it, Tim. Like there's
I
so
think-
much more available to you as a man if you just let that go. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It almost to me feels it almost to some extent it kind of feels, and I'm just going to speak for men in general, it almost feels like we've given up. I mean, to some extent, right? Like I don't know numbers, but like I usually sit in my office and listen to NPR. Like I have it on like all day long. And they were talking about how there's been this huge flip in higher education, right? So like somewhere in like the late 80s, early 90s, right? Like men just stopped going to college, right? And like women just like jumped, like quadrupled from where they were. And I wish I knew the numbers off the top of my head, but I don't. But like that to me is like, all right, well, the women showed up, guys, so let's just throw in the towel. Like,
Yeah.
like what? Come on, yeah. Like, and how do we fix that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So here's another kind of base element: the belief that there are so-called alphas and betas. And the most ridiculous example of this comes from Jordan Peterson. Specifically, he uses lobsters to try to illustrate that hierarchies are just a part of nature, and that men's position in society is actually granted to us because of the level of serotonin available to us. His example is that in battles between lobsters, defeat restricts the creation of serotonin, and the victors increase their production of serotonin. So the point behind this, according to Peterson, both lobsters and humans have a nervous system that runs on serotonin, making winners feel happy and losers sad. And our nervous systems use this to create a hierarchy in society. Now, this bullshit comes from his book, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. How the heck do these guys get these things published, first of all?
That's insane.
So,
What the
I mean,
hell?
you guys have a lot in common with lobsters, right? And how they work. Yeah,
Sure.
no.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure that millions of years of evolution and brain expansion have allowed humans to move past the simple chemical regulation of our actions.
Serotonin made me do it.
Yeah, that's what
So easy out.
Yep. There we go. So the last major example of these through lines is really about how the reason you have problems in your life is either because you aren't working hard enough or you don't know the secrets to success. Now, a case study on this is to explore Andrew Tate's Hustlers University 4.0. Yep. That's a 4.0, as in the fourth iteration, I guess.
What the hell?
Okay, so here is how the Hustlers University website describes Tate. And keep this in mind that I just literally copied this directly from the website, grammatical errors and all. Okay, here we go. Andrew Tate is the founder of Hustlers University. He and his brother has been through a tough life, but they successfully make it out of the matrix, understood how the world works, cracked the code, and become financially free. The Tate brothers had no money at the age of 26, but became a millionaire at the age of 28 and a multimillionaire at 32. This shows how fast you can become rich by escaping the matrix, figuring out how things work, and committing to making things happen quickly. Any human being out there can't be competent in every aspect of making money. Andrew and Tristan's recipe for success is unique, and everyone has his or her own way to become successful. That's why we have different educators and mentors from different fields such as e-commerce, digital marketing, content creation, stock analysis, cryptocurrencies, NFT, DeFi, which stands for decentralized finance, Amazon FBA, which stands for fulfillment by Amazon, and etc., to help you choose way that's suitable for you. Okay, that is the end of the quote there. So Hustlers University defines itself as a financial education platform that will teach you to become successful in the modern world. And the topics covered in the university, you might ask, they are e-commerce, copywriting, cryptocurrencies, stock market, freelancing, business mindset, AI, social media, and fitness. Now, this just reeks with I'm going to take your money, and the fact that I got rich has nothing to do with a random series of events in my life. At no point do they actually share the faculty that teach these topics, nor the curriculum used.
Sure.
So this is specifically the culture that is being called out by the paper published from the Movember Foundation. This is the same snake oil salesman get-rich-quick scheme of old, but boosted by the social media age. Every interaction with this type of influencer is specifically tailored to give you an actual chemical response in your brain, and I'm not talking about the lobster chemical.
Oh my God.
Now, this type of influencer is something that is impacting teen boys and young men specifically. So why do you guys think that is the case?
I mean, they're an easy target, right? I mean, they want success, and they're young enough to where like, oh, if I do this now, I'm going to be a millionaire like this guy when he was 26 years old, right? Like, it's a predatory kind of mindset, and they see that these guys are still developing mentally and emotionally, and they're like, here we go. This is an easy target.
Yeah. Yeah. They're trying, they're coming of age. They're trying to figure out their place in the world. And this looks really successful. It's on their phones like everything else is. So, they're comfortable going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like James said, they're an easy target. They haven't developed the brain power yet to think critically about these things.
And this isn't anything new, right? I mean,
yeah, right.
I do this for the fire department, right? Like, I put out recruitment articles that look like we run into burning buildings every day, but we don't do that.
Nice.
We pick Nana off the floor every day,
Hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah. To add maybe like a different perspective on this, I don't see like heroic masculine influencers out there. Like, have you seen any that are like actually like productive, progressive, masculine influencers out there?
No, the closest I can think of, there's this guy, I love him. He goes by the Speech Prof. I don't know if you've seen his videos, but he basically does the duet type of thing where you see like one of these guys, just spewing this nastiness, and then like he comes on and gives like his more progressive kind of perspective. But like, I doubt that he has a tenth of I don't know. I should go check it. But Speech Prof, he's really great. I bet he doesn't have the following or the influencer that like these people do, because it's just not as like commercially appealing. It's because maybe it's harder to sucker people into like actual heroic masculinity.
Right. And I think that's an interesting point, because like as I think about this, like I'm doing other outlines and researching things a couple episodes ahead, and one of the things that I keep coming back to more often than not. And this echoes, I guess, probably maybe similar to who you were just talking about, Mike, and a little bit from folks like Scott Galloway. I know what I hear from him.
Yeah,
he kind of beats the same drum pretty consistently. But it all comes down to like, there are successful men out there that could live a lifestyle like these influencers, and show like I mean, Scott Galloway is very well off, right?
Yeah.
Now he's not, he's in his 60s at this point. He's not going to be out there like flexing and stuff like that. But regardless, like the point I'm trying to make here is that like successful men that have more heroic attributes associated with them, like there's just they're not taking the time, I guess, is what I'll say. Right. And again, I'll say like these influencers are also not taking the time in an attempt to actually help young men and boys. Right. It is all about, I'm just making a buck off of them.
Yeah. Right.
So like this all comes down to, in my opinion, like if you wanted to counter this type of influencer, it would have to be some type of actual like really, really successful men to like fill that void and have better conversations. I mean, other than us becoming successful influencers, because that could also be true.
Yeah. No, but even that, to use that example, Tim, right? Like we're three brothers that do this in our spare time because it's like something that we care about together. But like we're not spending millions of dollars on post-production, and like we don't put that same amount of serious into it.
Right. Yeah. I can't even imagine. Like I just recently got onto Instagram just for the podcast, and like geez, I can't even handle it. I don't even
Yeah.
know. I don't even
Yeah,
know where to
I
start.
I just checked because I wanted to see what the numbers were on Instagram. So like
Nice.
the speech prof guy I mentioned, he's got just shy of 1 million followers. But I looked up Jordan Peterson and he's got 9.2 million followers. So he's got 10 times the
Wow.
followers. And the thing that makes me really sad is like on the you're talking about like looks maxers and stuff. I do like Instagram for I've got a couple fitness people that I watch.
Yeah.
And
Sure,
I'm
yeah,
sad
yeah.
to say that the two of those fitness people follow Jordan Peterson, and I wish I didn't know that. But you see how it like
Aw.
it starts out as just like, I like this fitness bro, but then it goes directly down that trail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
so sad I looked at Instagram now.
All right. Well, this is where we land when we peel back the intent behind the most corrupt elements of the Manosphere. So if I had to kind of thread these themes together, the base belief is that women and feminism, or more broadly, the pursuit of gender equality, have taken away your rights as a man, and as the rights for others have increased. Yes, a proverbial zero-sum game, folks. Here, rights are like pie. So if you push back on this, or you have become aware that women and feminism are the root cause, you've become red-pilled, extracted from the matrix. But if you're not working hard enough or willing to learn secrets from sage alphas, you will remain a subjugated beta member of the society and more than likely sink into the incel community, becoming black-pilled. Acknowledging your existence is somehow regulated by a market based on superficial attributes defined by overly selective women. Yep, that pretty much sums up the reality that these guys have created for themselves. The reason I tied this entire series together, from cult-like conspiratorial behavior all the way to Jordan Peterson, is because they prey on the same type of insecurities. Again, after QAnon and other more modern mass conspiracies illustrated that a cult doesn't need a Jim Jones or Keith Raniere if the general through line is compelling enough for separate subcommittees to riff on and fit their narrative. Again, we talked about this in our episode on influence, episode 4 if you want to go back and listen to it. These individuals and the communities themselves play a highly empathetic role in attracting and retaining disillusioned men, specifically young men who are still in search of themselves. This can play out through simple rage bait posts or through more diabolical ways. A veritable Palpatine seeking to corrupt a world of Anakin Skywalkers through skewed facts, the lack of scientific method in their analysis of the world, and presenting a seductive long-term vision for what an ideal man is. What they would never entertain is whether that ideal vision of a man is doing more harm than good. This is specifically where people like us, amongst a growing yet fragmented community of others speaking out and a lackluster response from policymakers, come into play. If you research the way that you help people exit from cults, it says a lot about how you help people come out of the manosphere. In the first episode of the series, I shared an example from Dr. Stephen Hassan, who shared his experience leaving a cult. The same principles are true here. Compassion that offers an alternative future is the only way out. You can't force them. I believe that this starts with the exposure of how limiting the antiquated patriarchal ideal man truly is. The purpose of the women's liberation movement was to liberate them from the oppressive gender norms. Now, obviously, men had it pretty good in that old world, but if I said that these men are also being subjected to an antiquated masculine gender norm, I can make a similar call for a men's liberation movement. I realize this stance is dangerously close to what the men's rights activists sound like, but I believe that good feminists believe in gender equality as a whole. Now, as a man, I don't want to be asked about how my fantasy football league is doing anymore because I don't play fantasy football. And frankly, I don't care about football in general. Sorry, James.
Yeah, James will play it for you.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm asked because it's assumed that I should care because I'm a man. And if you're a man who thinks less of me because of that, then reframe your definition of what it means to be a man. I'd prefer to make sauerkraut than to sit on a virtual draft all day. So how do you guys feel about what I just said?
A little targeted. No. In all
How's your draft
seriousness,
doing,
like,
James?
it was not good, actually. I do still play fantasy football. No, I've been in the same fantasy football league
Mhm.
since Fire Academy with all the guys I went through Fire Academy with.
Nice.
So that's more the reason I do it
Wow.
now.
Nice. Good for you.
Um,
Good for you.
And then for the last
Sure.
several years, it's been on auto draft. I'm not going to lie. And then I just sweep up the mess throughout the season. But more, honestly, it's more for me. It's about like the chat group that goes with it. So I can still talk to those guys.
Sure. I guess I don't intentionally mean to like poke fun at fantasy football, but the sentiment of like
Yeah.
the idea of me being a man who doesn't like fantasy football is like off-putting for some people.
Right. Which is ridiculous.
So.
That's ridiculous.
So the second factor I'd advocate for is that there are things about being a man that we need to retain, or as we've talked about across many of our episodes, to celebrate about our masculinity. This is important because you can't have a platform for change that is just the antithesis of the current model. There are plenty of change management models or guides out there, but an almost universal tenet of these models is about reminding people what is staying the same. Health and physicality, the preservation of innocence and acting heroic, finding purpose through overcoming challenges, and the continuation of traditional masculine hobbies that can be enjoyed without the exclusion or at the expense of women, trans, and non-binary people. This all should be part of what we can communicate as traits we can continue to celebrate. The rejection of anything that is classically masculine is as damaging as the belief that feminists have taken away our opportunities. This also means we'll have to give some grace to men who are trying to shed those old gender norms. There is no leaderboard for who is the most virtuous. There is just progress. Last and probably hardest is what we learned when we explored Martin Luther King Jr., a radical level of compassion, meaning that my hope is to help other men, meaning that my hope to help another man must be greater than both their disdain for me and my mounting frustration compelling me to punch them in the mouth.
Yeah, I heard that.
And personally, this is hard for me. I'm a tragically pragmatic person, grounded in my own identity-defining experiences. Why can't you just figure it out, bro? That's not helpful. You can't debate something or someone out of a cult. It's the compassionate actions that short-circuit the fabricated beliefs that they've created. Present a better version of existence that needs to be prioritized, because winning this fight isn't about domination, but cultivation. You can't yell at a garden for it to bear fruit. That being said, fuck these guys who take advantage of men who are experiencing vulnerable moments in their lives. There's a reason I called them cannibals. Deep down, we inherently know that this is an aberrant behavior veiled in a self-help veneer, yet we dance around it because of social norms. While this is in no way okay, it speaks to how long we have dodged the issue and aren't practiced at having these conversations. Diverse perspectives are warranted, but it's going to take a continued dialogue and a lot of time to make progress. Now, I know that this episode isn't going to reach men who are caught up in this world. So this is going out to the people in their lives, especially men who can provide mentorship or act as a guide on their way out. The light you cast on a blossoming alternative masculine identity can be the start of a different liberation movement. One where I don't need to wear an unstructured poly-blend skin-tight suit and post pictures of myself in front of a Bugatti, all while hawking unregulated overpriced supplements. Want to know that one weird trick? Reject the manosphere and find yourself a better world that they cannot attain. All right.
Nice.
That's it for me. This is where I'm going to kick it to you guys. A couple more questions.
Boy.
Okay, get ready. Outside of how you actually make this come to life, like at that last part there about helping people get out of the manosphere or like overcoming the manosphere, am I missing anything? Are we missing any elements of this?
I mean, probably.
I mean, we haven't figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that I'm glad that you mentioned the bit about compassion, and because I do think all three of us find this type of perspective abhorrent and we reject it. But I do think it's important to point out that the way to help men out of this is compassion. And while we totally reject the premise of any of these arguments. Like, we do see that there are real humans, real human men who are damaged by that, and our goal is to, have compassion and lead them out of that, not to just belittle them constantly. Which it's tough because it's such it's such terrible content, and it does such damage to people.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've done a decent job of it here, is that like, just because you're not going to be in the manosphere doesn't mean that you're not a man, right? Like, you can still mow the yard and drink beer, and like, there's still a lot of cool manly things you can do, right? Like, it just means that you're not going to do this garbage that has consumed your life for so long. And I really think that if you can get away from that, you're just going to be happier. There's not that much to be mad about, right? Like, just
why you mad,
just
bro?
be a guy and be happy with who you are.
You mean I don't have to live up to the guy rules quiz that we took earlier?
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, so I think for me, I think you bring a, like, I do want to keep anchoring to, probably in my work, and maybe James to a certain extent in your work, maybe less so in yours, Mike, but there are still like careers or professions out there that are like hyper masculine, right? And like, I've worked for some pretty gruff dudes in my line of work in manufacturing that, like, dance dangerously close to you're gonna end up in HR, right?
Yeah.
If you keep going down this road. But I've had to like force myself to like meet people where they're at first, and like navigate with them, right? Again, and every man, I think, is at probably a different relationship with gender norms and gender identity. And me even saying that, like, if I said that to a lot of men that I work with, they would freak out at me, right? So the idea is, like, there has to be, when we talk about this compassion, this thing, like, it doesn't mean that I'm weak in any way, right? It means that's like when I keep going back to Martin Luther King, there's the way I kind of framed it up there is there's a radical level of empathy, a radical level of compassion, where it's like there's strength in that specifically. So I don't think that men, like, I do think there's a certain amount of men who will see things like even caring about gender norms or even talking about being more compassionate is just going to immediately off-put them, right? But being able to showcase like strength in that way is like a difficult challenge, I think, in front of us. That being said, second question here. So if there were some type of call for action that we should make here, what would that look like?
That's tough. I mean, I think we talked about it a little bit in this podcast, right? We need to find that more heroic masculine figure, right? Of true heroic masculinity, not manosphere masculinity, and maybe figure out who some of those people are. And I don't know how we do this as the three of us. Maybe there's a way, maybe this podcast gets a platform someday of like, we can elevate other people, and hopefully they'll elevate us. And I think that's our job, right? I think our job is to push out that heroic masculinity, like that, what we're talking about, is great. And it could be really great if we all got on the same page. And who are those people that we can help get that message out,
Yeah. And along with that, I think these the same way that the manosphere has this like decentralized type of, I don't know, design to it. Like, I think that I would prefer that. I think that's more effective to have like distributed communities of men rather than like one big movement. Like, my mind always, you were talking about like 1990s masculinity earlier, but then my mind goes back. I was like really involved in the church, in the evangelical church back then. So my mind goes back to Promise Keepers, which was like this huge men's movement that I think, eventually just, maybe it still exists, but it's ineffective now if it does. And I think devolved kind of because there were, you could go a million ways with it. And these manosphere misogynistic men like took pieces of it into their own, you know, into their own like corners of darkness, you know. And I think any big movement like that like has the potential to be torn apart by like these little decentralized portions of it, which are able to lead people away from like, you know, the big movement into their weird, you know, liver eating BS or whatever. But I think when you have just like men, what was it last time, Tim? We were talking about like that wood shop thing.
Yeah,
like
men's sheds.
Yeah, I think like the concept of just having men form relationships on these small community levels, I think that's going to be real powerful.
Yeah. We brought up the third spaces earlier.
Yeah, that goes
right?
along with it.
Like, Yep. I think there's something there, and I do think one, I guess the one thing I would kind of call to action here, to a certain extent, is the conversations that we have. And again, earlier today or early in the episode, when I kind of shared the people that I've started interacting with more and more, like there's no centralized effort. And maybe to your point, Mike, there's like, it shouldn't be, but there has to be at least this like pervasive counter. Like there has to be some type of themes. Like I think I read it earlier when I kind of talked about this. The idea of like what we define as like heroic masculinity, right? Like if it isn't, like if the manosphere has things like, you know, alphas and betas and that like all of your problems are a result of like the feminists and all the other stuff that kind of came out of this, like the idea of like what is the through line for maybe these other kind of sub communities. Like I think about, if I go back to what I was talking about earlier, whether it's like the dad life blueprint from the guy who I was following online from Blake, and like the men impact change group, or the you know, Equimundo group. Like there's no like poster child or like, you know, figurehead for this movement. And there's not even like a coordinated effort almost either. Like there needs to be some type of coordinated efforts to actually like take this in a different direction in my mind. So, but I guess that being said, there's 100 other different problems in the world right now, or more. So how do we make the case that this can or should be the defining problem of our times? And I'm not necessarily saying this should be, but what like why is this such a big problem? And amongst the other problems in the world right now, it should be seen as a priority to a certain extent.
Oh, like to me, this is easy. Like why we should consider this as one of the top problems to be dealt with is because go back to the beginning of this podcast. We tied incels, you know, and Jordan Peterson all the way up to the president of the United States' influence. And that is the leader of the free world. And if the leader of the free world is entrenched in this type of thinking, then it's a major problem for us to deal with.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I think you also touched on this too, right? With the suicide rates, right? Like I think suicide rates among men are on the rise.
Yeah.
You know, among not just men, but different types of men, you know, veterans, everybody. It's I think we've lost, I don't want to make us sound like the victim, because I don't think we're victims of anything as men. Other than I think we got in our own ways and didn't allow change to happen. But I think that it's more of like, I think we need to see this as an actual problem, because we need to catch up with the world, because I think we left ourselves behind a long time ago.
Sure. Yeah, that's going back to the argument that it's worse off for us, right, James? It's worse off for us if we cling on to this antiquated hierarchy and don't move forward. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's like there is this battle happening over who gets to define that, right? Like if we're saying we can't put the feminist movement back in the back to where it was before, which you can't, like then comes the next logical step, which is, well, who gets to redefine what that looks like for men, right? And I think that's the battle that we're kind of facing right now. And I've heard it said that that if I tie it back to the presidential election from last year, like I've heard it described as the progressives in the world, or like the more democratic leaning people, left leaning people, saw that election as being defined all by like the Dobbs decision and women's gender rights. And what actually happened was the antithesis, which was that so many men swung to the other side because they wanted to make it about themselves. And that might seem selfish at first, but like there is, if we ever want to get out of this situation, there needs to be some coordinated effort to define gender norms as a whole.
Sure.
Right. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, we've made it this far, folks. We did it. That's it. We're 3 parts in to a 3-part series. And to be frank, I'm never going to talk about the Manosphere again. Well, let me be clear here. At least until some other internet bullshit exposes itself on my feed. Now, the world of the Manosphere is here whether we want it or not. It's an evolving catastrophe permeating the nameless spaces of our digital culture. Men deserve to be liberated from the bonds of patriarchy in the name of gender equality. While we have historic privilege, it's modern men and boys that are in trouble for the sins of the past privilege, and that can often be perceived as being unfair. Conversations rooted in an evolved ideal of masculinity benefit us all. But if I've learned anything about men based on my study of this field, it's that we've never known to analyze our own place in society. I call on everyone to support other podcasts, creators, and others in this burgeoning space. While the Manosphere preys on men by advocating for division, there is an alternate world we can create based on compassionate companionship. So go out there and give a bro a hug. Dang, man, we made it. Get out there, help a brother out, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dang Man. You know the script. Subscribe to us on your favorite platform, write us a review, and share your favorite experiences with your friends. All of this helps us reach more men to grow our community.